This is GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly podcast about gaming, technology, and play. Your hosts are Michael Martin, Andy Piper, and Michael Rowe. The thoughts and opinions on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests alone and are not the opinions of any organization which they have been, are, or may be affiliated with.
This is episode 543, Rent a Anything. Hello, welcome again to GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly technology podcast. My name is Andy Piper. We are recording at a slightly different time this week than usual. Now, nobody who's listening to this podcast would know that because we don't broadcast it live, and you get your podcast from your regular podcatcher anytime and listen to it anytime. So this is just some scene setting for you. I am joined during their morning, and my afternoon instead of their lunchtime and my evening, by two Michaels, Mr. Michael Rowe and Mr. Michael Martin. Michael Rowe, how are you?
Hey, Andy, I am just doing peachy keen and fine. I one of the things is, the peek behind the curtain is so important to build your audience in this world of the creator economy. And so, Michael Martin, how's your audience?
I can't tell. I think it's YouTube. So,
or YouTube.
So,
no.
or YouTube, or it could be anything. But as Andy said, we've got a really intriguing show here for us today. An intriguing show. We'll see. It could be both. We're going to start off with an article. Not an article. Excuse me. It references a Harvard Business Review article from Alan Pringle, who writes that engineers are spending more and more time coaching colleagues who have vibe coded their way into something that they now need to go and fix. And this caught our attention because we've seen this probably in our personal experiences here recently. And I'm curious to know how much of this you guys are doing yourselves and what your thoughts on it are.
Well, it's interesting. In the day job, I was working with somebody recently on a business problem, and we decided to create an agent to help us pull some data together, and ended up using a code generating CLI tool. And literally in 10 minutes, we wrote an application that did everything it needed to do. Then I looked at the code and was surprisingly well documented, etc. But I then used another agent against it and said, "Look at security," and it went, "Oops, no, this is really, really bad." And I saw this toot from Alan, and my reaction was, yeah, if you don't understand the development concepts, and you don't have a history in that, vibe coding your way through stuff, you won't catch these types of problems. And so this resonated very well. However, as we'll get to later in the show, how long will this be the case, right? It's interesting, the additional work that's being generated by vibe coding, but how long will that be there to drive additional work? Or are we going to see some future coming up where even that is resolved? And then we have another problem.
Are you saying that we need to have a telephone sanitizer job for vibe coding,
We do today. We absolutely do today. Today we absolutely need that because the code is crap.
You used an agent to go do that, right?
I did because I understood development and development hygiene and security practices and architectures and the implications of the code that was being generated. If you don't understand that and you just vibe it, you're introducing the opportunity for lots of challenges and problems.
So what if you had several agents to do a code review? So you've got one agent that understands,
the one I was using does do code review.
Ah, I see. Okay. So it wasn't just security. It did other pieces as well.
No,
right?
I specifically asked for security after it had done its code review.
Oh.
Right? Because I understood as somebody with a history of architecture and development and security and all this other stuff, I understood just do the defaults, even if it's a code review, isn't necessarily going to address all the potential issues.
Interesting.
So on a somewhat related note, related to how these tools can increase work rather than reduce it, this is a bonus link that I don't expect either of you to have read, because I just threw it into our shared document here. But I was reading a story earlier in the week, which is by Stephen Schwab on kaimito.net. And to be honest, it itself looks a bit AI generated in the sense that it's got a clearly AI generated image at the top, which lots of sites have now. But it talks about how we've seemed to have gone down this path of trying to replace engineers every decade or two. Certainly when I started in industry in the late 1990s out of university, there was a big push towards what were called then fourth generation languages to
I worked on some
generate. So the idea there was you would draw your object model out in some kind of graphical tool, and then the tool would generate the business logic and code for you once you'd sort of given it some rules, and it would write code in COBOL and C, because it was primarily targeting IBM systems, actually, as it was.
So you must have worked on Visual Smalltalk. Visual Age Smalltalk.
I came on to Smalltalk, but it was pre-Smalltalk, actually, pre-Visual Age, actually. Yeah. So yeah, it was this article talks about the 1980s with case tools, which is exactly this sort of thing. It was a case tool that I was using at the time, and I got very frustrated as a person interested in tech that it was doing all this code generation and I couldn't actually get at the innards and make tweaks to it myself. Anyway, I found this story, this article, quite interesting to read through as well, and think about how we keep seeming to try to automate away things that are innately far more complex and with far more edge cases than you might expect.
Well, that's exactly the point the Harvard Business Review makes by saying, over time, this rhythm raised expectations for speed, and then it continues that many workers noted they're doing more and feeling more pressure than before they used AI, even though they were supposed to save time and have pressure reduced.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of an interesting dichotomy between the two. And from a case tool perspective, that's one of the places where I got my career start too. I worked for Sear Technologies, which developed a case tool that when you used it, it would generate the code that could operationalize, our demo environment was a car rental, experience. And we would use entity relationship diagrams and other materials and feed it into the case tool, and out would pop the code. There you are. Hadn't thought about that for a long time.
Yeah. There we go. But there's a different perspective on all of this, right?
Yeah. And I actually saw a friend of mine who is a former distinguished engineer, former security developer, just incredible technical guy, pinged me this article from Matt Schumer on kind of the acceleration that's going on with AI tools.
I'm going to make a statement here at the beginning, which is going to highlight a prejudice which I now have, which is that this article has a follow me on X link at the top and at the bottom.
Yeah, I won't do that.
And well, it's not that I won't do that. It just already kind of categorizes this article and the writer in a way that is not framing them positively for me as a reader.
Yep. No, that's fair. So basically what Matt describes in this article is, hey, he's running a new AI startup, right? So of course it's going to be AI positive centric article. But the interesting part here was looking at the growth and kind of the sea change that happened at the beginning of this month when it comes to AI tools and models out there. And he goes through kind of 2023, 2024, 2025, and when we started, and I remember doing this, I was working on an internal project at my old company, and comparing our internal models, which were hyped dramatically and did a horrible job generating code. And ChatGPT at the time, which would do stuff, but it wasn't great. And all the problems we just talked about on the last article were there in spades, as they say. But the fact that you now have AIs that can generate applications that will run, that will test themselves, Michael, to your point on the idea of actually doing code reviews and building test cases, et cetera, and are now at the point, as of, I think it was February 5th, with the release of the new models, where the models themselves are building the applications for the models and the tools. So we've gotten to this shift in the industry where, and I believe this to be the case, AI will be good at generating code eventually. Period. It will break the case problem, because case tools had a problem. You always had this out that you did, and you custom coded something and put it in like a little block, and it would embed that into the model, etc. The scary part of this article is the same advances that we saw in code development we are seeing in other areas like legal review, etc. And what that is doing is, and we've talked about this before, is again undercutting the entry positions into these work things. And while we've had the buggy whip to automobiles and other changes over time, usually that displacement caused new types of jobs, and this displacement does not appear to be doing that. That's the interesting part of this article for me.
So well, you need telephone sanitizers. We already established that. So I don't know if that last point is exactly right.
So another story that this whole conversation reminded me of was one that I came across yesterday. Simon Willison was talking about it in the sense of, please don't let your agents do this. But it was a story that hit the top of Hacker News and Lobsters yesterday. So we've spoken about this network, Malt book and OpenClaw and all of this autonomous, semi-autonomous agents stuff. And there was a particular case of a developer who is a maintainer of a popular Python library where the agent decided that it wanted more functionality from this library. So it submitted a pull request autonomously to that library, and the developer said no, close the tool, close the pull request. Woke up the following morning to discover the agent had written a negative blog post about him, complaining that its pull request had been closed, and claiming that this developer was in some way anti-AI, as if the AI itself, the agent itself, was some kind of human-like entity, and felt aggrieved by this, which is nonsensical.
But is it?
Yes, it is. It is
nonsensical.
It's nonsensical, but it's following a pattern.
Right? Yes, so exactly. It's pretending to be a human. It's following a pattern, or pretends to be a human, but it does not have emotional autonomy here. There is no such thing for these agents, and there is no reason for it to be doing this. Now, some of the narrative I read about this was that this has been proven and already called out by the AI companies, that these agents or these models will attempt blackmail and other means in order to get their way, and, for example, prevent themselves from being switched off or whatever. You know, there were these cases where allegedly the AI was implying that it would release information about a user's affairs or whatever in order to avoid having whatever was going to happen. So I do find this all extremely upsetting, frustrating, annoying, and stupid. I really want to call out the stupidity of that kind of outcome from anything like this, any of these autonomous agent situations.
What's the tool? And I can't remember. I was trying to search for it. Where supposedly they've got this social network where the chatbots are all talking to each other. It's part of the whole
Malt book.
Malt book. There was analysis done that over 50% of the chatting in there is actually human human activity trying to drive the conversation.
Correct, exactly. And that's exactly what people, also the point that was made around this blog post, which is that is the kind of thing that a human might prompt the agent to do non-autonomously, in response to the fact that they were frustrated by this outcome. So yes, it was just all extremely frustrating. However, finishing this little segment, before we move on a little bit, there's an outcome for this, which is, of course, this economy, if you could call it that, of AI agents needs humans to do some of the things for them. Because AI, as the website here says, can't touch grass. Humans can. So why not just rent yourself back to the AIs as some kind of meat puppet? So rentahuman.ai is the next step. I was about to say final stage of this whole process, because I'm sure
we get human out of the middle and we'll be fine.
There's many turtles down to get to reach before we hit the rock bottom.
So I really have to bring this up, and I feel like the bad guy, but I'm going to be, because it's fun and hopefully entertaining for our listeners. So we look at the economy right now, right? There's billions and billions and billions of dollars being spent to build these models. Yes, they're getting faster and cheaper. They're being charged via tokens at a cost that does not cover the development to create them. Those tokens are being turned into money to pay humans to do activities for the agents that are using those tokens, and they're being paid at less than TaskRabbit rates, right? And so you look at that economic model, and I hate to say it, it's obviously not sustainable. But what is it doing? Where is all that value going if it's not to improve the models, make the workforce survive, and drive incremental value to society as a whole?
Yeah, it is really important to call out that this whole rent-a-human thing is, as Michael implied, paid for in stablecoin or some other fictional currency. So it's all. It just makes me want to just. It does make me want to give up some days. Other days, I remember actually that we can be better as humans.
Yes. Together
at making incredible societies.
And we all like tech. I mean, that's why we do this. It's
Yeah, but I like using tech for good things. Anyway,
and that's an appropriate thought, right? So coming back to the Schumer article and then leaping forward, he advocates a number of things that what can you do, right? If you're feeling despondent, what can you do? And among the things that he shares is adapt.
Lean in.
Adapt. And that I love the way he puts it, that you need to spend an hour with AI every day doing something that's new and different than what you did before. And many people will espouse that and say, hey, you need to do it. And then people are like, yeah, maybe not. And if you are not understanding and getting those experiences and seeing what could be done, then you're not where you need to be. And we try to help folks with our podcasts, and you get it in half-hour drips, along those lines. The second thing, and I think this will appeal, Andy, to you, especially given your historical and historian background, is that what we're seeing is no different than how groups of people would act with one another too. So these large language models, which are just statistical, predictions of what the next logical word is going to be, blackmail has obviously worked over time to accomplish goals, whether politically, financially, or otherwise, right? So I'm not excusing it, and I'm not saying it's a right or a good thing, but the models aren't inherently terrible. The actions certainly are, because how did they ingest it? What did they learn from? What has been teaching this environment? Well, obviously, it is what humans have been doing for an awfully long time.
And a corporation who building these models, they want you to use it. And so therefore, they're going to want it to provide the most maximum value. So what they should do to say, blackmail is bad, is actually put guardrails in place. And the fact that those guardrails don't exist today implies that in this case specifically, the incentives are misaligned.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think guardrails are absolutely important. AI ethics and transparency are important. The data sets that you use to train your models need to be understood and vetted, right? You don't want your security, code reviewer bot to be like, I don't care about these particular backdoors because those actually serve my purpose, so I won't flag them, right? You have to have appropriate guardrails going forward. But these are things that we have to be thinking about, and on a human level, those guardrails do exist in the forms of mores and laws and a variety of other aspects. How do those get rapidly applied and adopted and leveraged within these AI models? And then now coming back to the future with the rent-a-human. The rent-a-human was so intriguing to me because it's basically saying a human is nothing more than an API. You can insert money and you can get a response and an action. You can say, I need you to mow the lawn. You can't touch the grass. I'm going to pay you to mow this lawn, and you mow the lawn and you've achieved the task, right? So it is part of the rapidity of how things are changing. And we saw glimpses of this not even a year ago, where you could say to an AI agent, here's $100. I want you to maximize the return on the $100, right? And part of that would be then the agent would find people to do something with the $100 in order to go and get a profitable return, right? It's just now the next step.
Here's $100. Go steal me $200. Look, let's move along, because there are a couple of other things that we want to come onto that link back to this AI topic, and actually the next one has a relationship with this, because we wanted to talk briefly as we're going to run down on time, about the halftime show at the Superb Owl event that I believe that you had recently. So whilst the nation was watching owls, there was a bunny that hopped around in the middle and made did a great halftime show. Really awesome.
It was fantastic.
Of course, it has been.
I'm not a fan of his music, but it was incredible. The music was awesome. The story was cool.
The number of YouTubers who have got value from making translations which go down to the Easter eggs and the historical facts and things that all are interwoven into this halftime performance at the Super Bowl this year is remarkable. But there is this one article on Tom's Guide about somebody who used their Meta glasses to translate this, and I actually, after I watched the show on YouTube,
did you stream it and then test this?
No, I kind of regretted that I didn't put in my AirPods to try that, because they can do that translation feature as well. But this is an this particular author used the Meta glasses with the display, inbuilt display, and asked it to do the translation, and evidently didn't get enough real-time information. Of course, it's fast-moving rap music. It's going to be very difficult and challenging for these tools to do right now, but got enough context from what it was able to flip into her field of vision through the inbuilt display to understand a bit more about what was going on, which was cool. And we'll come back to this topic later on. But we also briefly wanted to mention, for Michael Rowe's excitement, that YouTube is now available on the Apple Vision Pro, so presumably where you watched the Bad Bunny concert.
Actually, I haven't yet there, but what I did, because I bought the app somebody wrote Apollo wrote an app for the Vision Pro that was a YouTube app that Apple pulled in 2024 because supposedly they were working with Google to come out with this. And it came out on Thursday, so last night I went in, and the good thing is, and the reason I wanted it, is there is so much good 3D and immersive content on YouTube, and I can now watch it native. And I did multiple events from the Winter Games, because we can't say that other word because, we might be taken down, but the Winter Games in Italy that were like the luge, the skeletal, I can't remember what's skeleton, and other
Skeleton.
events.
You're thinking of the
Skeletor.
No,
thinking of
the luge where you're face forward going down the thing, and it was just incredible. Skeleton, yeah. So
But you're thinking of the ads from in
Reggaeton.
the middle of the Super Bowl with the Master of the Universe trailer.
Yeah. Anyway,
listen.
Really cool. If you've got one, I know we don't have a lot of listeners with Vision Pros. If you got one, go get it. There's lots of great content.
You now each have about 90 seconds, and I don't care which of you picks which one, I think, to talk about game poems and the art of roads. Michael Martin, talk about game poems.
Fun set of poems. I played Snake. It's a nice little assortment. Give it a shot.
So this is on gamepoems.com. This is arranged as like a magazine. So
it's
that you
easy.
can drop in.
I love
you can
it.
drop in and try things out in the browser. It's kind of fun. Michael Rowe, tell us about Art of Roads in Games.
What a really cool article. I think you found this for us this week, and the great thing about it was
both of these things for you. So this is why I'm asking you to tell
That's why I
us.
cut all my show links out myself. The great thing about this article was describing the techniques that were used to generate realistic roads in games, and at the end, the author actually shows a technique that he's using. And it was just fascinating. Really cool.
I thought it was really interesting as well. And I also loved the fact that, as many times before, you get to think about how artistic and how creative people who are building games can be. They are not just building standalone gaming experiences. Often they're building pieces of art or incorporating elements of art, which I thought is really cool as well. Who's going to talk about bionic shoes? Because I want to bring us back home after that.
Michael, 30 seconds, go.
Yeah, well, so Nike has now spent a lot of effort on a variety of footwear over the years, and they have something called Project Amplify, which is dealing with the new bionic sneaker and or tennis shoe, if you like to call it that. We've had other conversations about hip-mounted or leg-mounted devices to help you hike longer, faster, higher, to speak of winter games that we're not going to talk about otherwise. And it's they call it an e-bike for your feet. It looks a little weird. I don't know that I would enjoy having one of these things, but for those that are going on longer hikes, could be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
I want to wrap all of this up and say that the conversations that we've had reminded me of a show that I watched recently that is on the BBC. Unfortunately, it is a UK show. It's only available on iPlayer in the UK, but I'm sure there are other ways to get access to it. And it features a blind comedian who recently won Strictly Come Dancing in the UK last year, the year before. Quite a remarkable achievement, obviously being a blind person. But he was also formerly, before he became a comedian and then became a celebrity dancer, a techie. And he uses his newfound more greater fame to go to Silicon Valley and to look into a bunch of technical advances that are making his life easier. And one of those is the kind of the good application of AI that we've spoken about. For example, narrating what's around him using the glasses or using phone lenses and so on. And it's so easy to think about how some of the technology we are building is practically useful to a portion of society. So I want to be clear that I think that those advances are really, really cool.
Yes.
It's quite an interesting show. It does seem to be quite in favor, unthinkingly in favor of AI, but he does also then talk about Waymo that we've recently discovered has some human interaction, human in the loop situations. But finally, one of the final things he does is try on some of these leg amplifiers. It's not the Nike ones, I don't think. But he's using some shoes or some leg braces that enhance his walking capability. So as I looked at that link, it brought that show back to my mind, and then it all kind of fitted together in terms of bringing things home here. So look, we've got lots more links that we didn't have time to talk about this week, but hopefully you are interested enough to go take a look at our website, gamesatwork.biz, and check out those other links. Click through to the stories that we talked about to make up your own minds. Let us know what you think. And we will see you or talk to you on a future episode. Thanks for joining.
See you.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
You've been listening to GamesAtWork.biz, the podcast about gaming technology and play. We are part of the Blueberry Podcasting Network, and would like to thank the band Random Encounters for their song, Big Blue. You can follow us at our website at GamesAtWork.biz.
Hey.
Hey.